Hello and welcome to the first video in the series of Viet for EDU conducted by Pham. And a lot of students and parents have asked me a lot of questions about one of the most popular standardized testing program in the United States as well as in other countries in the world, which is called the GMAT, the GMAT. So today I would like to make a brief presentation that contains and includes an overview of this very special, very popular, and required widely in the world and in the United States specifically, the GMAT. All right, let's start. Okay, first, what is the GMAT? The GMAT, which stands for Graduate Management Admission Test, is a very special and very popular test required by most MBA programs and even PhD in business programs in the United States and in the world. It is administered by one organization in the United States called Graduate Management Admission Council, in short, the GMAC. The GMAT was previously administered by the Educational Testing Service, the ETS. However, in 2005, it was transferred to this organization, the GMAC, to administer. So now the ETS and the GMAC are actually two separate organizations that administer separate exams in the United States. One very special aspect of the GMAT, the GMAT, is that it is computer adaptive, meaning that if you're following your next questions in an exam will be given to you based on your previous questions answered. For example, if you answered the previous question correctly, your next question will be harder than the previous question. And if you answer the previous question incorrectly, your next question will be easier than your previous question. That is the meaning of the computer adaptive aspect of the GMAT. All right, so what are there in a GMAT exam? Normally, in a GMAT exam, you will encounter four components: analytical writing assessment, integrated reasoning, quantitative, and verbal. For the first part, the analytical writing assessment test, you will be given one argument, one paragraph that contains an argument. It is a very short paragraph, and you are required to write an essay in which you will analyze the effectiveness of the argument here. The argument might be one type of argument or a statement spoken or asserted by a government official, a company officer, or even a customer. And then the prompt at the end of the argument, you will be given a prompt which is consistent across tests. Discuss how well reasoned you find in this argument. Okay, and you are allowed to write an entire essay analyzing the effectiveness of this argument here bit by bit. And then the integrated reasoning session is the second part in the GMAT program, in which you are given 12 questions on graphs and charts, and you are given 30 minutes to finish this test. This is an example of an integrated reasoning question. Here you are given a table on brands of fragrances and types, and then the unit sold, the percent charged, dollars, for example, and you are given some information here, and you are given 5 true-false questions on this table. The third part in the GMAT exam is the quantitative part, or in other words, the math part. You are given 37 questions in this part of the exam, and you are allowed 75 minutes for the duration in which you will finish this task. The 37 questions here. There are two types of questions given in this quantitative exam: the problem-solving questions and the data sufficiency questions, and we will talk about each of these more carefully in the next slides. The first part in the quantitative exam is called the problem-solving questions, in which you are given one problem, you are given some pieces of information, and you are given at the end of the problem a question for you to calculate some kind of numbers, some kind of figures. And then after that, you are given 5 answer choices corresponding to the questions here posed on the problem. The second type of questions in the quantitative part is called the data sufficiency, in which you are given this question. And then you are given 2 pieces of information labeled 1 and 2. And you will have to determine whether each label, each statement is sufficient in order to answer the previous questions posed for you. You don't have to calculate the answer to the questions, but you have to determine whether each statement alone is sufficient in order to answer the previous question. You are given 5 answer choices, A, B, C, or D, with the instructions given for you within the question. For example, A and B means that statement 1 or 2 alone is sufficient, while the other statement is not alone is not sufficient to answer the question. C means that both statements together are sufficient. However, neither statement alone is sufficient to answer the question previously. D means each statement alone is sufficient, and E means that statement you have to carry both statements in order to answer these questions, and no statement alone is sufficient to answer the questions posed for you. And then the last part within the GMAT exam is the verbal part. In order, you are given mostly questions on the use of English. You are given 41 questions, and you are allowed 75 minutes in which you will have to answer the 41 questions in this section. There are three question types in this section: the reading comprehension questions, the sentence correction questions, and the critical reasoning questions. And we will look into each of these 3 types of questions separately and more carefully. The first type question in the verbal part is called the reading comprehension questions, in which you are given one paragraph here, one passage here, some long, some short. However, at the end of the passage, you will be given several questions, several multiple choice questions concerning and testing your comprehension of the passage. For example, here, the primary purpose of the passage is to. So you have to get the main idea of the passage and determine whether A, B, C, D, or E is expresses the primary purpose of the passage. The second type of question in the verbal part is the sentence correction questions, in which you are given a question, in which you are given a sentence, and this type of questions are more of grammar testing questions, in which you are given for each question one sentence like this, and you will see one part of a sentence, or even the entire sentence, is underlined. For example, in this question, the part "have raised hopes that there is a recovery finally" is underlined within the sentence, and you have to base on your judgment on the conventional uses of the grammar, the English grammar and the English language, in order to determine which among the 5 answer choices below in this question is appropriate to be the best replacement for the underlined portion of the sentence. And then the last part in the verbal exam is called the critical reasoning questions, in which you are again given a piece of argument, a paragraph of argument, which is very similar to your analytical writing questions. However, this time you are actually not given an essay to write about, but you are given a multiple choice questions based on the argument above. For example, you will be asked whether there is an assumption within the argument, which of the following is an assumption made based on the argument, or even which of the following may cast the most doubt on the argument above, or even which of the following will strengthen the argument above. And this is actually one type of questions that you rarely encounter during your high school or college, but it was not until you move on to the master's or even graduate programs that you will be tested. This type of questions is also tested in several other standardized testing programs in the United States, including the law school admission test, the LSAT, or some other testing programs to medical schools, including the MCAT or the PCAT, or even the DAT exam, which is the dentistry admission test. Alright, so above are the components that lead to the format of the GMAT exam. Now, so how is the GMAT scored? Now, there are three separate type of scores for the GMAT. You will see that there is one separate score for the AWA, which is the Analytical Writing Assessment, and it ranges from 0 to 6. The verbal and the quantitative part each ranges from 0 to 60, which scores below 6 or above 51 are extremely rare. And also, after the verbal and the quantitative sections are scored separately, they would then be combined to give you a scores from 200 to 800. And how about the necessary scores to gain admission to MBA programs in the United States? Now, if you would like to have admission into a decent MBA program, such as those that are in the top 200 schools in the United States, you would have to have scores of 500 or higher. However, if you would like to gain admission into more popular MBA programs, including those that are in the top 100 programs, you would probably have to have at least 600 or higher for the total combined scores in the verbal and the quantitative sections. And if you would like to aim even for higher and even more top-notch universities in the United States and even in the world, such as schools in the Ivy League group or very famous universities in MBA program in the West Coast, including Stanford University or University of California at Berkeley, or even those that are not in the Ivy League but are very hard to get into, including the University of Chicago, then you would need to have probably at least 700 or higher. Now, as far as I remember, the average scores for admitted students into Stanford University MBA program last year was 740 points, and not to mention Stanford University, Texas A&M University that I attended actually have the average score. The average GMAT scores of 650, and a lot of students in my program, which is not the MBA program but the Masters of Science in Marketing program, and a lot of students in my program got 700 or higher. I did not deliver the GMAT when I applied to Texas A&M University, but I took the GMAT when I was in my junior year. I actually submitted the GRE into Texas A&M University. However, that is one bit of very important information that you would like to apply to top-notch universities. You would have to have a very decent GMAT scores, but the GMAT is a very important factor that a lot of schools and MBA programs could look into very carefully in order to offer you admission into the schools. All right, so previously is all the information, very brief information about the GMAT, and if you would like to, one more word, the information that I am actually presenting in this presentation has the source of the official guide to the GMAT review of 2015, and if you would like to have more practice materials and even more practice tasks and even more some strategies and tactics in order for you to use in order to tackle the exam, you might want to consult, make a reference from those official guide materials. So I hope you will be preparing for the GMAT very successfully, and I hope you all the best of luck in your MBA application endeavors. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you in our next video in the series of Pham EDU. Thank you very much, and goodbye.